And it's time for Lefties Losing It. I don't know how to apologise for what I'm about to show you, but just know this hurts me as much as it's going to hurt you. Let's have a look at Trump-deranged Rosie O'Donnell, who has fled the country because of POTUS, but she has returned from Ireland to film this hot mess for Sex and the City spin-off, Just Like That. Enough talking, let's just dive right in.
It felt so, I don't know, electric, and yet still so natural. I never dreamed my first time could be both those things.
First time?
Mm-hmm.
You were a virgin?
Yes, I'm a nun.
Yes, that was Rosie O'Donnell playing a virgin nun called Mary, who ends up in bed with Miranda, played by Cynthia Nixon, the worst character on Sex and the City, I think you'll agree. And that show jumped the shark many, many moons ago. But at least Rosie O'Donnell and Cynthia Nixon could share their deranged hatred of Trump together in between takes. Both are ardent Trump haters and mothers of non-binary or trans children. Remember, Cynthia Nixon boasted about having her daughters' healthy breasts removed. They call it top surgery.
My trans kid had his top surgery at NYU a number of years ago. Wow. His doctors were fantastic. His surgeon was the best we could have imagined.
It's time to check in with Joe Biden. The former president has his good days and he has his bad days, but every day is a delusional day. Listen to this.
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent and I can't walk and I can beat the hell out of both of them.
Well, do you want to reply to any of those reports, and also to the fact that there are some Democrats who are now questioning whether you should have run for re-election in the first place?
Why didn't they run against me then? Because I'd have beaten them.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't have any regrets.
Now, Elon Musk has had enough of his fellow billionaires talking trash. Listen here as he gives Bill Gates an almighty spray. After Gates made all sorts of unfounded claims about USAID, he starts by calling Gates a liar.
He's a huge liar.
I know, you've said that already.
That's
I wondered...
also,
and I'm just...
Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he frequented Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay, well, he said he regrets those, and he spent a lot of his own money on philanthropy around the world over the years. My question to you is: have you looked at the data to check if he might be right that the cuts to USAID might cost millions of lives?
Yes. I'd like him to show us any evidence whatsoever.
None whatsoever. And Bono, you know him from U2, he was making the same BS claims on Joe Rogan, and Rogan was not having it.
Just recent report. It's not proven, but the surveillance enough suggests 300,000 people have already died from just this cut off, this hard cut of USAID.
The problem is, for sure, there have been a lot of organizations that do tremendous good all throughout the world. Also, for sure, it was a money laundering operation. For sure, there was no oversight. For sure, billions of dollars are missing. In fact, trillions that are unaccounted for, that were sent off into various... They don't even know where because there's no receipts. The way Elon Musk described it, he said if any of this was done by a public company, the company would be delisted and the executives would be in prison. But in the United States, this is standard. When Biden left office, when it was clear that Trump won, in the 73 days, they spent $93 billion from the Department of Energy on just radical loans, just throwing money into places. Right. And there's no oversight.
Well, folks, it's June, and that means it's Pride Month, and they started celebrating early in West Hollywood. sure that's suitable for young kids in the audience there, but it's not just the public nudity, it's the corporate virtue signalling we're going to see in the coming weeks. Yes, a whole month of far-left foolishness, but for some, it's never enough. Watch this Karen whine about Target getting rid of their LGBTQIA++ display and replacing it with a pro-American one.
Happy Pride Month. In my Target that used to have the Pride section, it's now all USA. Yay! USA! Woo! And honestly, my dad serves in the military, and I'd love to be really proud of this nation, but it's hard to be proud of it under Donald Trump. But hey, you know, while you're here, pick up a USA bikini. You know, why not? Yeah, Target's really taken this anti-DEI thing to another level.
Oh dear, God forbid anyone should have pride in their country. I'm sure your granddad risked his life so Target could sell breast binders to young girls. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Kosha, there's been a cultural shift in the US. It's undoubted. And are we going to see things like Pride Month marked differently from the corporate world? Are we going to have the same sort of activism and enthusiasm as we have seen in previous years?
Seemingly not. It looks like we have finally broken the camel's back on this issue. It almost descended as quickly, blink and you missed it as it ascended just in the last 5 years. And you see, you know, the Silicon Valley titans and the high finance people and cultural icons all coming out and endorsing Trump in this election. Everything sort of trickles down from that, I think. And you haven't seen mass backlash or young people rioting and leaving their high-paying Silicon Valley jobs or New York jobs or anything like that. And you don't see corporations putting the little black square or the little rainbow square on their LinkedIn profiles. So maybe we are past the worst, dare I say.
I think the corporates are seeing there is actually a price to pay, and it's probably a bit more clever to be apolitical and not alienate at least a portion of your customer base, a significant portion. And I think USAID really exposed just how much of this far-left activism, this far-left movement, was funded unwittingly by taxpayers. It wasn't just some organic grassroots movement.
That's been one of so many examples of just, as much as we know what's going on in the culture, there's so much more. And when you think you've got the whole picture, there's yet more that we don't know. And USAID was about $50 billion a year in spending. That's like $1 billion a week. It's not a small amount. And even worse, as you say, because more than the money and the wastage financially, what it was doing domestically and all around the world. And it's completely been gutted. 90% of contracts have been terminated. Yes, it was challenged in court. There are a few challenges still working its way up. But by and large, this organization has been fundamentally changed. And I think everybody is for the better. And maybe we can do something with that taxpayer money.
Yep. People's eyes have been opened, even those of us who are very engaged in this space. I was shocked by the money that was being spent, taxpayers' money all around the world pushing this far-left activism. Bizarre use of taxpayers' money. And whilst we're talking about USAID, Elon Musk, the man who was responsible for cutting so much of that waste and fraud, well, he had some parting words for members of the media, pointing out that they are the ones responsible for so many of the slings and arrows that have come his way, and they are discredited.
The president mentioned that you had to deal with all the slings and arrows during your time at Doge. There's this.
Well, some of the people, you know, some of the media organizations in this room were the slingers.
Well, so there is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between.
Is the New York Times, is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate? Is it the same organization?
I got to check my Pulitzer. My Pulitzer
I think it is. It is. I think the judge just ruled against the New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times, let's move on.
And we've seen this from the Trump administration across the board almost, whether it's Hegseth, whether it's Rubio, Musk there, who isn't a politician, but he had a fairly significant role. They are just hitting back the media hard. They've taken on Trump's attitude towards the media, and you've got to say it's pretty effective.
For sure. It's not your grandmother's Republican Party, as they say. And this whole group, starting with Trump, leading, he really showed people how to fight. And when things go as bad as they've gone, you're kind of past nice manners and niceties and all those things we saw from John McCain and Mitt Romney and even Ronald Reagan. It was just a different world that we're living in. And here you've got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and fight. And they kind of relish it. So it's not everybody's cup of tea. You always run into people who don't like it or wish the demeanor would be different, but I think it's very effective, and a lot of people actually really do like it.
If they want to go back to the GOP of Mitt Romney or McCain, well, good luck to them, because that's the GOP of losers, and those days are over. the voters have no appetite for that, so never mind whether Trump's there or not. The voters don't want that. They don't want to have polite losers. Now, we saw the way the media treated Elon Musk after his salute from the heart. They were calling him a Nazi, saying he was doing some sort of a Heil Hitler salute, which was just so dishonest. Well, Democrat Cory Booker did something, well, pretty much exactly the same in the last couple of days, and there was no condemnation, no accusations. Many didn't even report on it. And Kosha, I guess this goes to the point of why they feel like the media deserves to be treated with disdain, because it's just discredited itself.
Time and again, and when you think they can't sink any lower, you see these examples. And it's not even about hypocrisy, it's about hierarchy. So Cory Booker, you see, is higher in the totem pole, where he gets extra protections that the other side doesn't. There's many people who've done this. And I think the good thing is that media has been democratized because of the internet and social media, that these clips do get out there, other programs like yours, and the social media covers it. And that just further delegitimizes the mainstream media unless they wise up to that, but they don't seem to be doing it thus far.
And sticking with the media, yesterday we had CNN claiming that the Colorado terror attack was carried out by a white man. And here we have NBC going to great lengths not to use the words like Jews or even pro-Israel, calling the victims of the attack Gaza hostage awareness marches. I mean, really, Kosha.
If the backdrop wasn't as tragic, like it's almost funny. And they really are the kings and queens of linguistics. They always have been. So you have the Gaza awareness marchers, you had the Maryland dad, that famous case. And even back in during then President Obama and Hillary Clinton's, I'm reminded of the story of the terrorist attack in Colombo, Sri Lanka, on Easter Sunday. And both of them referred to them as Easter worshippers because they couldn't use the word Christians on Easter Sunday. So they're very aware of words and which words they use, which words they don't use. But again, to your point earlier, in this day and age of just podcasts and media and social media, we all are discussing it and seeing right through it. So I just think it's a losing strategy, but they seem to be addicted to it.
Now, in recent weeks, we've had a governor's house firebombed. We've had 2 Israeli embassy workers murdered in cold blood. And now this attack in Colorado, several pro-Israel protesters set alight, badly hurt. If there was a right-wing group or movement behind these sorts of attacks, it would be leading news coverage all around the world. It would all be as such a crisis that needs to be addressed. But it seems like we've got a fairly permissive attitude when it comes to violence from the left. We saw that throughout the BLM riots, and we're seeing it again with this anti-Israeli movement.
It feels like it's a next dimension on this continuum where we talked at the top about culture and the culture is shifting and corporates aren't virtue signaling as much. Then we've talked about the media losing its potency and legitimacy because we can all see through their games. And now this is where it gets really serious, where it's actual violence taking place. And that double standard, again, still continues. And as you say, BLM or even the Antifa riots before that in Portland and elsewhere. So this feels like the last frontier. If the right can somehow crack this and just reclaim the narrative around that, which they're doing, the current administration, in terms of their law and order agenda, that will be another big win in this continuum that we're on.
And we see that everywhere. There was Antifa, you mentioned. There was some violence in California where they were there to protest against, I think, some Christians who were gathering. And we see it right here in Australia when we have the Let Women Speak marches, and there's always some sort of a counter-protest because they're not allowed to speak without the far-left activists disrupting them. On Colorado, there's been a lot of commentary in the past 24 hours about this image, summing up the modern Democrat Party. Let's have a look at it. Kosha, what do you say to this? There's a lot happening in that picture.
Oh my goodness, I could say modern Democrat Party in an AI simulator, and I don't think it would come out very different from that. You've got the flag in the background, it's like perfectly framed in the middle. You have this violent person and just the heinous acts he committed. He's shirtless, he's not in particularly good shape, he's an illegal immigrant, throwing a Molotov cocktail, and I think it does sum it up, everything we just talked about, the cultural virtue signaling, the way the media is covering it, and then the violence from the left that's been getting away, but not for long. We'll see what's going to happen. Some judge is likely going to block his deportation, but cases like this only help the cause politically on the other side because these are not sympathetic figures.
And Trump's made that point. Mohammed Solomon, the alleged attacker there, is an Egyptian national in the US illegally. He's overstayed his visa, entered the US during the Biden administration, sought asylum in 2022, was granted the right to work. Is the Biden administration in any way to blame for this? So they let millions through, unvetted, and you're going to get characters like this amongst them.
100%. I think this really personifies what we know. So we know the numbers and the ridiculous 11 million plus that were allowed to pour in through 4 years. And then the particulars of this case where he was caught even by the ICE agents in the Biden administration, but was let go because that was the policy, catch and release. And then he was rewarded with legal work access, even though he overstayed his visa. So you're just creating magnets and rewarding. So every issue that we talk about all gets personified in this case. And then he goes and does what he did. So it really just puts a huge red line, I think, under this issue in a way that had never happened before. And hopefully the current administration can take advantage of that momentum and do something about it.
Now, before you go, we talked about that cultural shift across the US. Let's have a look at another example of that. This is something we wouldn't have seen a few years ago, certainly wouldn't have seen it in Trump's first term. Watch here as football legends and current Pittsburgh Steelers stars pay tribute to Donald Trump in Pennsylvania.
I'd like to present to a Hall of Fame president. Please accept it.
How about this president of ours, huh? Just wanted to say God bless you, President Trump, and God bless you, Pittsburgh.
Now, that was Pittsburgh Steelers legend and Vietnam War vet Rocky Blair and current quarterback Mason Rudolph and defensive back Miles Killebrew. I mean, that is something we wouldn't have seen kosher just a few years ago. Those players, current players, would have been cancelled. There would have been all sorts of uproar. No one really was bothered by any of that. I didn't see too much backlash at all.
So true. There's that old adage, I think, attributed to Andrew Breitbart, that politics is downstream from culture. Every once in a while, in a case like Donald Trump, who's very unique, it almost feels like culture is downstream from politics. And just his whole story, even before politics and since then, the comeback, being the underdog, being counted out and coming, is like classic American stuff. Everybody loves that story, even though they've been trained not to admit it. And this carries a lot of weight when you have NFL stars and Hall of Fame legends doing that. The other piece, too, is since it's the Steelers, Pittsburgh, that is a key constituency of Trump. Pennsylvania, and particularly that town, the Steelers and Miners, didn't go to Republicans since Ronald Reagan, 40 years. And he, in both terms, turned that around. And I think that's sort of the other piece of it. And the Steelers, of course, exemplify that part of his constituency.
Kosher Gator, thanks for your time tonight. Now, we've seen morale and recruitment numbers in the US Army soar in recent months after President Donald Trump's election triumph. And get ready to see those numbers soar further because the ad campaigns have changed a bit. They've gone from this under the Biden administration.
Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age.
Yep, that was under Biden. This is the latest ad.
No more distractions. No more electric tanks, no more gender confusion, no more climate change worship. We are laser focused on our mission of warfighting.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. It's called peace through strength. Through our power and might, we will lead the world to peace. Our friends will respect us. Our enemies will fear us. and the whole world will admire the unrivaled greatness of the United States military. We will replenish the pride of our armed forces, end the recruitment crisis.
We don't fight because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us.
God bless you. God bless our armed forces. God bless our men and women serving overseas. And God bless the United States of America.
Joining me now is comedian and host of Primetime with Alex Stein on Blaze TV. Alex, it makes you want to sign up. That is some inspiring stuff.
No doubt about it. And now that young soldiers don't have to worry about being basically under the thumb of a person with gender dysphoria that's mentally ill, I think they have a lot more confidence in joining the armed services. So I'm happy that people like Rachel Levine are now banned from joining the United States Armed Services. So Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump have given the American people, and especially the young American people, faith into our armed services. It's beautiful. I love to see it, and I can't wait for more young people to sign up and actually support our country in a positive way and not some sort of weird LGBTQ gender mafia way.
Well, talking about LGBTQIA community, you've really been embraced by that community. It is Pride Month. Let's just have a look at how you've been embraced.
White racist assholes.
How are you going to protect a kid by cutting off his genitals? Get off me! Get off me! No. Stop. Look at this! I should kill myself?
We're all friends.
Do you think I should kill myself?
Nobody will love you.
I hope you live forever. I'm sorry that you want me to kill myself.
Nobody will love you.
Alex, they don't seem to like you.
No, Rita, but I mean, they're on a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, and luckily for me, the estrogen hormone keeps them pretty docile and pretty weak, so they're not too tough. So thank goodness for
They didn't look too docile.
Pumping through them.
They didn't look so docile when they were pouring water. I hope it was water on you and coming after you. It must be frightening. I know you joke about it, but we've got a bunch of people all worked up coming at you. You must fear for your safety occasionally. But I want to ask you about CNN. They had some disturbing news to impart to their viewers.
Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
This is new CNN polling.
Yes.
How is that, when we look for trends, how is that trending with other data that you're pulling in?
Yeah, if it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage when it comes to the party with a better economic plan.
Alex, they just can't understand why their own polling is showing Trump winning on the economy.
Yeah, it's really not a hard equation to figure out. And if you really just look at our economy now, the fact that people actually have some faith that they can actually go work and that industries are coming back here in America, it just creates so much of a better lifestyle for the American people. And, you know, when it comes to the polling, though, of course, these Democrats are now changing. I mean, nobody predicted Donald Trump to win in a landslide. So it just tells you that even though the mainstream media is going to tell you that the liberals are in charge and everybody loves, you know, Kamala Harris and progressiveness, that's not the case. There's been a major shift, and it's really in the conservatives' favor right now.
Well, those figures on who's best for the economy are just overwhelmingly leaning Donald Trump's way. And he's had some good data recently. Inflation is down, real wages are up, and the tariffs haven't been the disaster that we were told they were going to be. Just tell me how that's seen in the US right now, particularly the tariff policy, because obviously around the world we're very concerned about the tariffs.
Well, of course, Rita, and I try to talk to people that are in industries here in America, and the car business isn't hurting that bad. But you know where I've heard is hurting so far is Las Vegas. They've lost a little bit of their international travelers. And so they said, I swear, Rita, that's what they said. They said Las Vegas is down a little bit right now. But other than that, the economy is pretty good. And if Las Vegas is down, it's probably better for society, if you ask me.
Well, we've got some more good news with a big drop in fentanyl crossing the border. Washington Post calls it mysterious, this drop. But I don't think, Alex, it is all that mysterious, and it's certainly going to save many, many lives.
Rita, doesn't it make you sick how they can just pretend to be so naive? I mean, just the fact that Donald Trump was able to shut down the border in one day and make our country infinitely more safe when it comes to all of the drugs and fentanyl, and not only fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamines, all kinds of drugs that are being, just taken into our country by coyotes. So this is not a hard problem to solve, and Donald Trump basically solved it. And for them to try to placate it like it's some sort of mystery, it just shows you how dumb the mainstream media really is. And no offense, the people at Sky News are great. They are not so much.
No, we call it the leftist mainstream media. Is Donald Trump getting any credit at all? We know they hate him, and it's just relentless negative coverage of all things Trump. But for things like the border and, the fentanyl numbers dropping, the economy, is there any credit going the Trump administration's way yet?
No, seriously, the only complaint that I have seen in Trump's administration right now, because, I go to these college campuses and I debate, is the deportation of Abrego Garcia. And honestly, Abrego Garcia, the Trump administration, they admit that they didn't give him fully due process, but he came here illegally, so he got kicked out illegally. And that's one person. That's not the overwhelming majority of, the situations when it comes to deporting people. So other than that, I mean, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to January 6th, when it just comes to the overall, feelings that people have when it comes to our safety and especially our geopolitical relationships, people have never been more satisfied than in the past 4 years than we are today, especially under, Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe.
Alex Stein, thank you for your time.